I'm back again. Uh, Today I'm back with some thoughts about what the future might look like a bit farther into the future than what most of us plan for. Many of us are laser focused on the next few years, and we try to prepare for the trials of the last days before the glorious coming of the Messiah. And I certainly don't want to distract anyone from their efforts to be prepared in every way possible. One of the areas in which we need to be prepared is intellectually. Got to think about some stuff. Now, in our world today, many people believe that having a good education is essential to having a successful life. We point to the difference between the average income of people with a college education or advanced degrees relative to those with only a high school diploma as evidence of the importance of education in having a successful life. Even Adam and Eve made the choice to seek for wisdom and knowledge when they decided to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which Enoch referred to as the tree of wisdom. As a consequence of their choice, they were cast out of the Garden of Eden into the lone and dreary world where they would learn from experience, as there were no schools or teachers at that time to provide them with what we might call an education today, with lots of theories and philosophies about what makes the world and nature work the way that it does. They were starting from scratch, literally. Now, in the Garden of Eden, which was evidently somewhat paradisical, Adam and Eve were told that they could just eat whatever fruit they wanted, except for the fruit of the tree of wisdom, and they were not told to be hunter-gatherers per se, but rather to tend the garden and to eat the fruit. Nor were they commanded to pick more than they needed to eat at any given moment, and to save it for the future, just in case the fruit got scarce. Scarcity was not a problem in the Garden of Eden. Scarcity did not happen until after they left Eden. Throughout history, humanity has devised a number of different ways of dealing with scarcity. Scarcity is what some would call an economic problem, describing situations where there's not enough of something for everyone to have as much as they want or need. So we have had to come up with strategies to allocate scarce resources between individuals. Trading and bartering developed into exchanging goods for services, and eventually into monetary systems to store wealth and exchange that wealth for scarce goods when needed. Capitalism is based upon an economic principle that allocates goods and services in accordance with one's willingness to pay for those goods or services. There are other ways we have devised as well. Communism claims to allocate everything equally under strict government control. In countries with socialized health care, for example, people may not have to pay money for their care, but the care is instead rationed to the population based upon what some would call willingness to wait, rather than willingness to pay. For example, back in the 1990s, when magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI machines, were not as common as they are now, there were more MRI machines in the city of Santa Monica, California, sort of a suburb, if you will, of Los Angeles, than there were in the entire nation of Canada. Now, we're not saying that Canada is not civilized. I mean, they're a great country located just to the north of the United States, and nobody would say that they're an undeveloped country, but they had fewer MRI machines than a small city in Los Angeles. The difference in the availability was based entirely upon the willingness of the Canadian government to pay for the new MRI machines, relative to the willingness of hospitals in Santa Monica to pay for the machines to achieve market power in the Los Angeles area. But the good people of Canada don't really receive free health care. The health care is provided by people who do get paid by the people of Canada. Not directly, but indirectly through taxes. And when Canadians need better access to high-quality care, they will sometimes cross the border to the United States, where the market economy provides care based upon willingness to pay rather than willingness to wait. The differences in these economic systems form much of the basis for how governments operate in our world today. Democratic socialism and communism exert more government control, with pure capitalism allowing for more individual control on the part of people participating in the market. The U.S. system is not pure capitalism, but a form of regulated capitalism sometimes called a market system, where government tries to limit market power by regulating monopolies. Capitalism generally results in great differences in the economic welfare of the people. It has been said that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. You've all heard that. Even if one were to evenly reallocate all the resources in a capitalist nation, it would not take long for differences to reappear, because people would continue to make different choices regarding saving and spending their available resources. In socialist and communist countries, there may not be such large discrepancies between the quote rich and the poor, but that may be because there are fewer market-based incentives to create wealth. In the church established by Jesus, the members were said to have all things in common. That is, they all shared what they had to take care of one another. This sharing was supposed to be on a voluntary basis, but on at least one occasion, members held back what they had agreed to share, as when a man and his wife lied about how much they made on the sale of a property and kept back part of the proceeds. The LDS Church also tried living by what was called the United Order, or the law of consecration, and eventually discontinued the practice when people resorted to what some would call greed. We're just normal humans. This is the very nature of our dispositions here in mortality. We tend to hoard wealth in order to ensure that we have enough when things get scarce. Whether this is greed or prudence or simply a lack of faith that God will provide for our needs, you will have to decide. I'm not saying, okay? So what sort of government and economy do you think will prevail after the glorious coming of the Messiah? Is there a paradigm at work here? Obviously, if I'm talking about it, I believe there is. I will call it the paradigm of paradise. And there are elements in this paradigm at work all around us, even in this fallen world. If we look at all of nature around us, we will find that the vast majority of matter on this planet does not try to hoard wealth. People are the only exception. The rest of nature exists from day to day, with the plants taking up water and nutrients from the soil and absorbing light and heat from the sun to grow and develop, produce fruit and seeds to reproduce, and turning carbon dioxide into carbon-based plant materials and atmospheric oxygen. Herbivores eat and digest the plants and breathe in the atmospheric oxygen, giving them what they need to grow and reproduce, as well as exhaling carbon dioxide, which is in turn used again by the plants. Carnivores do the same as the herbivores, except that they eat other animals rather than just plants. Eventually, they all die and return to the soil where their carbon-based tissues decompose and become nutrients to be absorbed by plants. All of this involves totally cashless exchanges of carbon, oxygen, and other elements needed to sustain life as we know it. I sometimes think of these laws of nature as divine laws that make life on this earth possible. They were established before the world was created. They did not occur by chance. They are evidence of the intelligent design that went into the creation of the earth and everything on it. And all creation abides by these laws. Even people subconsciously abide by them. It is only in our conscious minds and our conscious behavior that we do not act in accordance with these laws. In our wisdom, if you will. One of the tenets of the LDS Church is that in the future the earth will be renewed and return to its paradisical state. The inference is that this will happen shortly after all the destruction that is to occur incidental to the coming of the Messiah. Are we given any scriptural references to what kind of economic system might be put in place at that time? In Isaiah 55 verse 1 we read, Ho, every one that thirsteth, come ye to the waters, and he that hath no money, come ye, buy and eat. Yea, come, buy wine and milk without money and without price. Seems kind of strange. Is it possible that in a paradisical earth that we would have no need for money? Is it possible that we will subsist by eating fruits and vegetables on a planet where there would be no scarcity and hence no need to store wealth? Does paradise sound like a place where good things are scarce to you? Of course not. Paradise is a great place. All the good stuff is there, and there's plenty of it. There is yet another paradigm we find in the Bible about the Lord's ability to satisfy our needs from day to day and to discourage us from trying to hoard more than we need. It is the story of manna in the wilderness. You may recall that the children of Israel were told to gather only enough manna to feed themselves each day, except for the day before the Sabbath, when they were to gather enough for that day and for the Sabbath as well, when they were not supposed to work or gather food. In fact, the manna did not even appear on the Sabbath. But what if they gathered extra manna on any other day? If they did, the manna spoiled. But it did not spoil when they gathered it enough for the Sabbath. This experience was designed to teach the children of Israel to rely upon the Lord and keep his commandments. There are lessons we can learn from these paradigms. I hope that this has caused you to think and ponder about what it might be like to live in paradise, or even in heaven, and how you might better prepare yourself to live in a place that is governed by the laws of the divine, rather than the wisdom we find in man-made theories of economics and government. Thanks for listening today. I hope this causes you to think a little bit. And, obviously I was thinking. I always get in trouble when I think too much. You have a great day, and please let me know if you have some other thoughts or ideas about this. Thank you. Bye for now.